Okay, welcome. We're in here for another fabulous episode of Adventures in Business Live. Amani's here, Mandy's here. What's new, Mandy? How was your weekend?
Hi, Amani. Happy Monday. Well, we moved, Amani. The renovation is happening and we moved, and moving is so much different now than it was 9 years ago, the last time we moved. And I feel like I was in a bar fight. I feel good sore. I felt my body feels sore, but good sore right now. I don't have to go between two houses anymore. We're in our renovation rental, which has many stairs. So we're getting a lot of glue. We're getting a My poor husband yesterday, he was walking down the stairs. He was walking so slow. He's like, there's so many stairs. I'm like, I know. There's a lot. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stairs, but we're happy. We moved and we're in. We're in.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Glad it's working out.
Thank you. What about
That's
you?
good.
What I want to hear about you were at WEC, MPI,
WEC.
WEC last week at the conference.
Yeah.
What were your highlights, lowlights?
So not to be lowlights. Highlights. Well, I did 28 interviews in about 3 days.
Wow.
And so that was with about 40 people. So I was busy.
Yeah.
The city did well. The city was great. They did a great job hosting us. Convention center was nice. Our good friend Taylor and I did a session together that went very well. So that was
Good.
fun.
Good. Taylor
So
Smith meetings today. Yeah.
yes. So that was good. And yeah, it was all good. No complaints over here. Okay, the next one is in San Antonio in 2026. Then it comes to Vegas in 2027. Then Anaheim in 20 no, then Denver in 2028, then Anaheim in 2029.
Ooh, lots of middle of the country stuff. I like that. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
do you how do you process like 28 interviews? And if I know you, you were extremely prepared for them. But then after the interviews, you're like consuming information from people and processing. Like, how do you process that? Like, how does your brain go through 28 interviews and then, or are you still processing? Are you like, I haven't had pancakes yet. I haven't processed. Like, how do you do
I
that?
haven't had my pancakes yet, but I would say just like yeah, it just takes time. Just takes time and then like coming home and I'll cut up some clips this week and do that. So that'll be helpful and we'll see kind of as I continue to process. We'll see, but it's a lot. Usually after the interviews, I like to get some quiet time right when I'm there. And
Good.
like I didn't attend some of the sessions, so I might have gone back to my room because you have to pace yourself. It's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah, it is a marathon, not a sprint. I love that. I love
This
that.
is true. This is true.
Amani, should we
So
share the other exciting news that we have that our podcast, two other pieces of exciting news that our podcast has? Should we share that? Or should we wait?
go ahead. Yeah, share it now. Yeah.
So we painstakingly have completely re-curated all of our sponsor packages, and
Good.
they went out. They were exclusively released over the last 2 weeks to a couple different groups of people, and people are really digging it. And I'm really excited. I think when people think about their marketing dollars right now, we tend to think, should we buy an ad in a magazine? Should we do radio advertising? Should we do Facebook ads? Everybody's thinking about how they're spending their money. And I think people, they just don't think podcasting isn't on their radar of how to invest their marketing. But what people don't realize is it's not expensive and it's evergreen. Like that content is out
Uh-huh.
there forever and ever and ever. And I think when you and I released it last year, a couple years ago, we didn't know as much then as we know now. Like we're heading into our third year. And what I'm realizing is that this is like an educational sell, right? Like we're not saying like, do you want to advertise on our podcast or not? We're just saying, do you want to shift your marketing dollars to podcasting? Because like we're educating people on the podcast business. So I don't know about you, but that's been kind of fun to talk to people
Mhm.
about that and just give them this whole new channel. Like they're being a
Right.
trendsetter and this whole new channel is something they hadn't thought about. So that, and I think these packages are good. They're better than the last set, I think. These are good. And that was the other thing. Oh, we're heading into July's three year podcast
Yes.
anniversary. Podcast
Yeah.
anniversary. Yeah. So
Yeah. Podcast version 3 years. So stay tuned for exciting content and episodes coming soon.
yeah, we've got
Now.
some fun tricks up our sleeve. You and I just talked about some of the fun things things over the next. So pay attention to the YouTube channel, pay attention to Instagram. There's going to be a lot of fun little get to know the host type things over the next couple of weeks or
Yes.
so.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Who are we getting the pleasure of speaking to today?
Oh, Monty, we've got a real amazing human today. I'm so excited. We have the creator of the Courage Coalition podcast. She's the founder of the CR Financial Foundation. She is also involved with the Fostering the Summit Foundation. She's a bookkeeper. She's a finance. I find her to be a finance wizard. She's got a lot of great answers to a lot of great questions, especially as a business owner. She's a wife. She's a mother of many children. She's a home improvement survivor, which I think is the biggest badge to wear, and an all around amazing human, Corree Roofener.
All right. Welcome, Corree,
Oh,
to the stage. I'll give you a round of applause here.
Welcome,
Round of
Corree.
applause.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So good to see you. Thanks for making time for us today.
Yes. I love it. I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Mandy, you take it away. We're going to switch it up a little bit. You can start off with the first question this week.
Ooh, Amani Stumper. I like that. I like when you switch it up. Like I normally sit patiently after the introduction and Amani goes in for a zinger. I like that. Okay, good. Because I got a lot of questions.
No zinger this
Okay.
week. Or not yet.
So you talk a lot. We'll get into the business and everything that you do first, but I kind of want to lay some groundwork because when you talk about money, you talk so much about values. And I think people so many times are like, they don't think about morals and values and ethics when they think about money. They don't tie those two things together, but so many decisions you make have to be morals, right? Especially financial ones. So you talk a lot about financial stories and how we still might be running our finances in outdated ways based on like past beliefs or past stories and how this might hurt us. Can you explain your philosophy on this? And as business owners, like how we can shift gears on this?
Absolutely. I think it's my passion, how I lead, but our values are our North Star. They're literally what lead us. And I don't think we talk enough about being clear in our values and what they mean. If we are clear in our values, they literally can be a magnet that helps us in life. And I mean marriage, business, money, relationships, all of it. They are the foundation of who we are as a human. Talk about money, we think of like this black and white structure. Just this is how you do it, this is how you don't do it, and this is how we were taught to do it, and then we're taught not to do it. And that's if you're lucky enough to be taught anything, right? Because the fact of the matter is that money is so shameful because we have not been taught to talk about it. That's just what it is. And so when we have clarity in our values, we're living our financial story, not somebody else's. But if you don't have clarity in your values, then you are living somebody else's financial story. Your grandfathers, your mothers, your fathers, your husbands, your wives, doesn't matter about. There's a belief, if you go back to science, in our amygdala, our beliefs were between the ages of 7 and 10, maybe 6 and 11, depending on the person. And we were told the story at that time, whether verbally, and we're still living it unless you have been given tools to reverse those stories.
I think that's really compelling because as I think about like my own financial journey, I think about like money. I was always taught not to talk about money. That's nobody's business. And when I got together with my husband, he embarrassingly publicly talks about money where I'm like, don't do that. But like his parents were both in the financial sector. Like they sat around the table talking about money. It wasn't a thing. They didn't talk about how much money they had or didn't have. It was just, they talked about money the way you talk about what you're having for dinner. Like it wasn't a thing. And as a result of that, he's very comfortable talking about it where I'm like, I am not, that's my private information, but I feel a little stunted because had I been talking about it my whole life, I might be thinking about it differently. So like, what advice, since you are a parent, and remember, you have 6 kids, right?
6 kiddos. Yeah. They range from ages 6 to 31. There's a big gap.
So when you talk about finances with your kids? Like, what do those conversations look like?
How to, we were just talking about how if we saved $100 a month. I was talking to my 13-year-old about this. If you saved $100 a month, so you earn $1,200 this account by the time you retire, and we compound interest, because that is what is missing. You know, our education system, we graduate knowing the derivative of some complex math problem, but you don't understand credit card interest.
Yeah.
Right? You don't understand compound interest. And we've got to start changing that in the home, because I'm not sure our school system's going to change. I am working on that, by the way.
Of course you are.
You know what? It's like we have to sit around the table and say, what do you want to change about your financial system? If you're talking to a 16-year-old who wants the pair of Nikes that cost $260, what are you willing to get there? Is that really how you want to spend your relationship time, your money, your financial freedom? All of those things, those are those values, right? Freedom of spending money, freedom of relationships. You get to choose, and there is no wrong way. It's just being clear and teaching them as young as possible that it's their way, but just know that the way you do it is the way it will turn out. However, there's always a key. You also get to choose to plan to change your mind. And that's what Chad and I did 3 years ago. We had the opportunity to change our mind because of how we saved, spent, and earned.
Talk about that though. Amani, I promise I'll turn this over after this. Talk about the big financial life change you and your family made 3 years ago. I think this is really fascinating.
Yeah. So I was a stay-at-home mom for 21 years. My side gig was what I do for CR Financial Foundations. It wasn't a business name. It was literally a side gig. We did foster care for 13 years. So being a mom and being a foster parent was my full-time job. And I did this to, pad the vacation fund, because I've always been a travel junkie and I love numbers. And so we lived coach. We always lived below our means. And that didn't mean we went without. It just meant we lived below our means. We saved a lot of money, but we saved in our values, always saved in our values. And my husband was in corporate America. He was an executive commercial, high stress, and life happened. And we had a major tragedy, and we lost my mother-in-law very young. And it cut us off at the knees, right? It's just devastating. And it came to me actually as I was speaking at her funeral, that we get to choose our legacy every day. We get to choose. And this was not my choice. I'm not going to choose to let my children see society say what was successful and what was not, what was joyful and what was not. And I think that's what we were living, even though we had so many choices, the 9 to 5, working, making 6 figures, doing it the way it's always been done. We were living in the confines of that boundaries. And I realized that we could actually choose something different. We had bought property here in Northwest Montana as a retirement property, bare land, 20 acres. And we were in a really good place in real estate in the state of Oregon, which is where we were born and raised. And I knew that if we sold, that we'd have enough to rebuild here in Montana debt-free. Because of the way we'd saved and lived, we didn't need a lot of money per month to make it until we could build from there. And so that's what we did. In July of 2021, we sold our house and we we actually lived in our trailer for 9 months between Oregon and Montana. And then my husband has completely built this land. So we're in our home, but we lived in an apartment for 2 years that he built off of our shop. And we are pretty much debt free.
Oh, it's amazing. And you've got a brand new house that you built as a family, and your kids got to participate and see the hard work and live in that too.
Yes.
That's so cool.
In all of it. And be able to bring that as a part of their belief system and their value system.
Yeah. It's awesome.
So maybe to continue on this conversation, in your opinion, what are maybe the top 5 myths about money that we consistently see and hear about?
I think the number one thing, first of all, is that it's hard. I mean, I believe that because of our lack of communication about it, our lack of talking about it, it has this stereotype that it's hard. It's hard to earn, it's hard to save. It's not very hard to spend. We love to spend it,
Mhm.
but it's hard to earn it and it's hard to save it. And I don't think I know that that is just a belief system, and it's also about not being clear. Um, Another myth is that you can you can you can have an abundant mindset if you save a lot. And abundance and scarcity are a funny thing. Scarcity mindset again, and I'm going to explain this for a second. I had a huge savings. We saved almost 50% of our income a month. And I was in scarcity mindset. And someone's going to say, like, how is that possible? The possibility is because I was not clear. I'm sure that I could earn more and I could always save more if I needed to. It was a little bit of a fear factor. I've got to have enough so I never end up where I was. Got to
Mm.
have enough so I never end up where I was. That's scarcity. And we tend to think that scarcity comes from people that don't have enough money or that don't have enough comes from belief. I think that is a huge one that we really have to look at how we look at money. And abundance is about the ability to know that you can always earn more and you can always save more. And it's about living in that beautiful middle ground where you get to live and save, be protected for your
Mm.
future.
Interesting.
Protected for your
Mm.
future.
Interesting. Okay, so any other myths that come?
Top it looks one way.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Retirement looks money looks one way.
Mhm.
I think that is one of the biggest reliefs I give a lot of client is that I don't tell them what they're doing is wrong.
Okay. Okay. Are there any books that you particularly love that talk about money, kind of your same philosophy?
It's funny because I'm going to tell you the name of a book that I love, and it's one of the books that actually made me start to understand that I had been living from a scarcity mindset, but it's not a money book.
Oh, okay.
And so, Marianne Williamson, Law of Divine Compensation.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And they do talk a lot about money in here, but only from a worth perspective,
Mm.
only from a value perspective, only from a loving you perspective.
Interesting. Okay. Good, good. Now to switch as I take notes. Um, what's your definition of courage?
Oh, to walk forth in spite of fear. And it's a very generic one, but I do truly believe that courage comes down to taking the very uncomfortable motion, action, in spite of what you are feeling inside. Because it is not the lack of fear. No courageous person has ever stepped forth with lack of fear. It's always been in spite of fear.
Interesting. And what's your favorite personal example when you exemplified courage?
Ooh, money.
I set that up pretty nicely though, didn't I?
Nice. That's
There,
nice.
there's so many, Amani, tell you like that because I've been able to go back
Okay.
and I realized I was a very little girl, but I was shy and reserved. So I want people to hear,
Mhm.
go back and look at it. But I think the most courageous act I've ever done is just saying yes to foster care.
Mm.
Mm.
I mean, it's hard because there's a lot of them, but I think I believe in my heart that that was the thing that pushed us as a family and definitely me as a human to stretch as far as I could stretch which is very courageous.
Got it. Okay. Back to you, Mandy.
Oh, that is so courageous. I have so many questions to ask about foster and finance, foster and finance. It's like going back and forth. I'm going to switch gears here for a second, but I do want to come back to the foster care because a lot of questions about that. But I want to switch gears because something that I thought I always knew, but the more and more entrepreneurs I talked to, I realized they didn't know the differences between, and I wanted you to just give some definitions of what is the difference between a bookkeeper, an accountant, and a financial advisor? Which we should,
Well,
all business owners should have all three. Yes.
all three.
Yes.
All three. Absolutely. So here's the funny thing is that, again, this is the evolution of our financial communication and talking. A lot of times in our parents' generation, or even in our generation, and definitely our grandparents' generation, an accountant was almost all of it. Okay. Now, the very wealthy had financial planners. But everyday people really didn't have financial planners. And your accountant did your bookkeeping and they did your taxes. They did it all. But we've evolved just like we have in everything we've done in business. And I believe this is going to be my definition. Okay. This is how I do my work. I believe a bookkeeper should be a friend. Okay. They should be someone that's willing to walk next to you, really get to know your business and your life, because I talk about values. If I am a transactional bookkeeper, I know nothing about your values and I cannot help you grow in your business. So my goal is that I know all like friends. I want to know about their lives. And that allows me to look at their books in a different way. It allows me to give advice in a different way. It allows me to, put the halt on something in a different way. And when I say that, I mean, like, if you, Mandy, have the goal of X, but you're still spending like you were before that goal, I need to know about that goal so that I can help you reel back the spending, right? Accountants or CPAs, however you want to look at them, accountant doesn't necessarily do taxes. So it's typically a CPA that does your taxes. That's the only ones that you have tax people that can, but it's typically a CPA. They're pretty transactional. But I have also learned that there's really good CPAs that are going to do a little bit of what we're talking about here. They're going to say, you know what? No. In March, Q1, we need to be doing this in order to prepare you for Q4. And they're working with your bookkeeper to make sure that those numbers are all aligning. That is a great financial team.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, you're working with that financial planner to make sure your tax is as low as possible for the following year, right? This is a ongoing thing, but we don't want to pay the government. I'm not against taxes, you guys, but we work hard for our money. We want to pay ourselves first in all the ways that are the best for us and our business. And then we pay the taxes. And that's how that team works beautifully together, is it completely lowers your tax liability to the most bottom number that it can possibly be.
I appreciate this explanation because over the years as a business owner, I've done it all the ways. I've had an accountant who did my taxes and was a bookkeeper, or just had somebody on the team doing the bookkeeping. I've had, I've done it all the different ways. This is the first time in 20 years of business that I have 3 different people doing 3 different things, but they can sync up, and it is magic when they can sync up. And I think this is the best way because you've got 3 different sets of eyes looking at it completely differently, but advising each other, maybe even sharing perspectives. So as a business owner, this is how I prefer to do it. But I'm curious for you on your end, what are entrepreneurs and business owners doing? I know you say there's no wrong way to do it, but what are people doing wrong right now? Like, what are things that you're seeing financially people doing where you're like, I wish they would do this differently. Like their business could be so much more protected, or they would be so much more profitable if they just did this. What are a couple of those things out there?
Well, I mean, it's going to come back and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but education. And I say that not from going and taking an accounting class or anything like that, but there is so many great books. and great conferences that really can help entrepreneurs understand that they have more choices than they've ever believed, right? But two, I think what it comes down to is one, it's never too early to start keeping track of your money. I think that's the biggest fear. It's like, I just don't have the money to keep track of my money. You can keep track of your money as an entrepreneur. You don't have to hire somebody, but you have to do it. And if you're not going to do it, then you've got to pay somebody else. Otherwise, you're going to lose money, one, in expenses, and two, a lot of times probably in fines and penalties. That's
Mm.
just the fact, especially if you have payroll employees.
Mhm.
It's just a lot to keep up with. And entrepreneurs aren't in the business to do their books. They're in the business in whatever their genius is, right? So I think that people come to me and say, "Did money yet?" Then, right? Time is money, money is time. And then, you know, I do a lot of cleanups. And that is because business owners don't ask enough questions. And the reason they don't enough what questions, right? Taught that we go and see an accountant who is the expert. Hey, but I don't understand this. You need to explain it
Mhm.
to me. Right. And then lo and behold, down the road, they're like, but I told them that's not the way it was supposed to be. So it's just that confidence in you, and this is your baby, this is your business, and it's just like your kid you take to the doctors, you know them better than anybody else. It doesn't matter if they're a doctor.
Mhm.
You know them better. Same with your
Mm.
business. You know the else in the world. It's okay to ask questions. Good to know the question to ask that are just dangerous enough to make somebody stop and pause themselves.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Great
Yeah.
advice.
Can we go back to when you said retirement looks different? Can you explain
Yeah.
how the difference between what we're taught retirement should look like and what you've experienced in terms of
Mhm.
how retirement looks different?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first, it starts with knowing who we are. And I think that a lot of listeners will probably be like, well, exactly. I'm going to challenge you on that, right? I don't know that you do. What is it, those five core values that really stick you in your foundation? And what do they look like now, depending on your age, right? 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and at retirement? Each of us wants some retirement. We don't all want the same thing. There are people that literally want it, and that is beautiful. And different, all seven continents, right? There's also this belief like 401k is, and there's going to be a lot of pushback on this. I don't believe that's true for everybody because there are certain individuals that know themselves extremely well. And I'm going to use an example here, okay? I have a client and he is an amazing orchid grower. He grows orchids, that's what he does. And he actually feels really uncomfortable, not because he doesn't understand an IRA, but giving something that is controlled by him.
Mm,
And this could be that scarcity mindset. I'm not going to say it's not, but he has $1.2 million worth of
mm,
orchids. And in his mind, that is his retirement. And I'm like, that is beautiful. I love that. But now tell me your plan. So it's not that it has to look a certain way. It has to align with who you are and how you can do it. Because I can tell you the perfect way to plan for retirement. But if you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it. So what's the point? Right? We have to know what we'll do and then live in that and plan in that. And so my challenge to him was is that needs to all be written down. He already has somebody that will come in and broker all of them if something were to happen. So the information needs to be passed to your wife. You can't just keep it in your
Yeah.
head, right? So it's having clarity, owning that, just owning it. Don't feel shameful about it. Own it and then planning for it.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. What is your thoughts on where does real estate ownership factor into your kind of strategy and plans and thoughts?
So, from a personal perspective, it is very high. I
Mm,
love real estate. Okay, that's a personal love. Now, it's not for everybody. I also have a husband that can build a 3,600 square foot home by himself. So, I have a little bit different input, right?
right.
But real estate to me has never failed me.
Mhm.
Never. We have never been failed by real estate. Even when we've had losses, it comes back.
Yeah.
Now, the 401k, the stocks, all those kind of things typically do the same thing, but we've never seen the same returns. So, from our personal perspective, we've got to have about a 50-50. We have a retirement plan, we have a 401k, but our next investment is more real estate because
Mm.
for us, that's what makes sense. And that's what feels. I'm going to go back to feels because our money is emotional. And if you think it's not, that is the biggest lie you can tell yourself. We emotionally can be connected to that real estate.
Interesting. Okay. Now we gotta switch gears again. I'm curious. I'm curious to understand what is a holistic courage coach? What does that mean?
So we talk about our values, right? And we all have this dream inside of us, whether we are conscious of it or not. We were born with it. This is my belief. Okay. This is my belief.
Hmm.
We were born on purpose with a purpose. But the problem is that we don't get taught to listen. We don't get taught to hear what we already have inside of us. It's always go find the noise, go find the more, go find this, go find that. But what about finding who we are? And we actually have so many clues and so much evidence to who we are already if we just take a stop and look back. One of the first things I love to do is like, what brought you joy as a child? Just
Mm.
utter joy. Roller skating to me is like, ah, it's just the best. When we connect to who we were, so this is that holistic, we get answers to who are becoming, but I don't actually to who, and we get to introduce ourselves back to who we were born to be. It's all inside of us. And I talk about numbers and foster care. All of that evidence was in me from probably about 4 years of age and up. But I wasn't taught to love that part of me or to look at it in a different way. It had to look a certain way. And that's how when I talk about holistic courage coaching is getting people to really just say hello to themselves again and see if that is actually what they've been looking for all along.
Mm. You give me a lot to think about here. I'm thinking, Mandy. What do you think?
I want
Take
to. I want to
over.
hang. Well, you marinate on that, Amani. I want to. I want to hang
Good
here while
word.
we're talking about courage, and I want to talk about your Courage Coalition podcast. So, tell us about that, and how did this come about? You know, everyone's starting a podcast, but nobody continues with the podcast. Your podcast is great. So, how did that come about?
Um, it literally an idea that stumbled out of somebody's mouth one day. And I thought about that and I thought, yeah, that's not for me. Because we were talking about how much I love being a guest. I love talking to people and really diving into who they are and all the things. And within 24 hours, the name came, the person that could help me get started, because I am not a tech guru. And I started. I am an action taker, and I don't believe that anything will ever be perfect. So the longer I wait, the longer I'm telling myself I'm not worth it.
Mm.
The one is not worth it. That's one of my mottos is if you do it for one, then do it. What if the podcast was only meant for one person? Then is that person not worth it? Because it came to me for a reason. Yeah, it gave me this process, but the title came to me, the way I wanted to, talk to people came to me, and I thought, nope, this is for the one. I just started. There's no reason I have to, if I hated it a year from then, because it's been a year, we just hit it a year at the beginning of June.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I didn't have to continue.
Yeah.
I could change my mind. I think we so get wrapped up in the thought that if we start something, it's forever.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be forever. It can be for however long it is a part of that season of your life. And the podcast has been nothing but a beautiful gift. The conversations, the real raw conversations I've had with humans that bring awareness to subjects that we need to talk more about. Not just money, because it's not just about money. I do a lot of solo casts on money, but there is a lot of mental health. There's a lot of entrepreneurship. There's a lot of, there's just all kinds of things, whatever really comes to the guest. And we have just this real conversation like we're having right here. There's no pre-questions. It's just really raw conversation.
That's beautiful. How do you find your guests? I mean, I know we have different ways of finding it. How do you find your guests and how do they find you?
I leave it up to luck or to God. That's what I'll say, because I don't search people out. I rely on conversations. I rely on comments. So if someone says a comment, I'm somewhere and it draws my attention, I ask myself why. And if it's something that I think I want to have a further conversation about, I ask. I've only been told no once, and that tells me a lot. And that one actually just recorded. It took her about a year, but she finally was like,
oh, what a great thing for the coalition of courage too.
Courageous.
Yeah,
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And we talk about and actually a comment. Someone sent me a comment recently and said, I had a really raw conversation with my son about mouth. And it was very raw and it was very open and vulnerable. And this person said, understand that I am not wrong. There's nothing wrong with me. Your son made me see that. Feel the same.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Now, we've come to the time of the show where we flip the script and we let you ask both Mandy and I a question. Nothing is off limits. So who do you want to ask the question to first, and what is that question?
Okay, so it's going to be to both of you guys. And this was the one I thought about after listening to your guys, like, what do you want to ask them? But I have a second.
Sure.
Okay. Do you have money conversations with your spouse and or children?
Well, I'll let Mandy answer this one because I have neither of the above at the current time. So
do you talk about money with your dog?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Mandy.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, my husband and I talk about money all the time. We have a rule though, because I don't like to talk when I'm winding my brain down for the night. I think I might have mentioned this to you one time, Corree. After dark, I can't talk about money. If it's nearing bedtime, I can't talk about money. I can't, and it's not just money. It's just like, I can't talk about a topic that's going to rev my brain back up. And it is a party up in this noggin. So like, it takes a lot to get it to the calming process takes a couple hours. So we have a rule of like, okay, no talking about money at bedtime, no talking about money after dark kind of thing. I've made it a couple exceptions to that, which is hard for my husband. He's a finance guy. Like, and this is literally like changing his socks. This is not a thing where it really revs me up. Like it really revs me up. So we have that, but we talk about money a lot. Like all the time. There's nothing off limits. And I will say, to his credit, when we started dating, because he was so open and vulnerable about talking about money, it rubbed off on me. Like, it got me more vulnerable to talk about money too, which I hadn't done before. So yeah, we do.
I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. Okay, then Amani, then the second one's gonna skew is
Okay.
what is one piece of advice? You guys are almost at your 3-year podcasting anniversary, and this is you podcast.
No, this is the only one I do now. The other one's like on permanent hiatus.
Okay, permanent hiatus. But what is one piece of advice for people that are either starting or in the
Ah,
depths of it that has helped you, one, like stay in love with it, but two, grow in it?
Mm.
okay. I'll give you a couple pieces of advice. I would say, like, try to stay consistent. Pick a schedule and try to stick with your schedule. Try, if you're doing an interview podcast, try to interview, like, get some very interesting people, particularly people who are maybe high on your want list, so it really kind of inspires you to keep reaching higher. That And then don't look at the numbers. Don't look at the metrics and the numbers,
Yeah.
because that will stress you out, and you'll never be getting enough viewers, listeners, etc. than whomever you're competing with. And then as you get to one mountain, there's another mountain. So those would be the 3 pieces of advice I would say. And then I always love podcasting because it's like a really intimate form, like we'll say like a 2020s decade of like networking. It's very intimate networking, which is very different from before.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I have to spin off of that for a second because you hit a hot point for me. If you have like these people that you really want to have on your podcast and you've kind of gotten no information, no, yes, just nothing. How do you feel like if it's not possible for you like to actually meet these people in person? What would your suggestion get them interested, to get them to want to be a
Keep
guest?
trying. Keep
Yeah.
trying. And try different ways. There's one person that I've been wanting to get on the podcast for 3 years, and he loves bananas. And I sent a picture of myself with the banana, like talking, and he said yes. Now, then his chief of staff came in and was like, wait, he's too busy. But so we're still working on that. But like, just keep trying and keep trying all different ways. Like,
Good.
send a DM, send an email, send a voicemail, send a video. If you happen to be at their concert, Amani, babyface, if you happen to be in the same place, and then put it out there too. Like, share
Yeah.
your list. Be like,
Mhm.
here is who, and Amani, actually, I was just thinking about this earlier today. With our 3-year anniversary coming up, I feel like we should share our hit list of who we want. Like,
Yes.
share it, because
Yeah.
you never know who knows somebody who knows somebody
Yeah.
who knows somebody. Just put it out into the world. So
Are you talking
that's what
about
I
Jesse?
think.
Okay.
You talking about Jesse Itzler for
Jesse
you?
Itzler. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
want Sarah Blakely. We want Kendra
Yeah.
Scott. We want Babyface.
Yes.
We've got a list. We've got like a top list that we want for sure. And I think, Amani, we've already hit a lot of our top. Like, we made this list, and we've got, I would say, 40% of the people that
Yeah.
we
So we need
really wanted said yes. So I think that's pretty good.
Love
Yeah,
that.
we need
Yes.
we need to revise our list. We need to revise our
agree.
list.
I agree.
Okay, good questions for us. I love to end the show with asking this question. You know, Mandy, funny thing is I asked almost every guest I interviewed at WEC this question, got some great answers.
Oh, good.
But
That should be a coffee table book.
maybe I'll ask you this question in a different way, Corey. It's just, if you were to talk to the Corey that was graduating high school, based on everything you've started, everything you've experienced so far in life, what advice would you have for your younger self at that age?
It's going to be a little corny, but it's just like that. It's the one thing that I've learned over the course of the last 32 years since high school is be okay with being you. Everything that I've learned, everything that has been one of those aha moments came back to understanding that I actually have everything inside of me. Just have to be in it enough to use it.
Well said.
Beautiful.
That's not corny. That's not corny at all. I
No,
love
that's
it.
beautiful.
Yes. Mandy, take us home.
I have 2 final questions. One is, again, about business owners and knowing your numbers. I know you and I have talked about this before, about the value and like reviewing your P&L monthly, yearly, and like things change along the way, like doing your own self audit, understanding, having a different set of eyes looking at it. What advice do you have for business owners that don't know their numbers, that don't look at their numbers, that are kind of afraid to look at their numbers? Like, what advice do you have for business owners just to get more comfortable with the numbers, even if the numbers aren't great a couple months in a row, or maybe they're great sometimes and not great others because they're ebbs and flows? Like, what advice do you have to get more
Well, I
intimate
think
with the
what you
numbers?
just said was perfect, is that you can't just take one snapshot of your numbers to truly understand your numbers. So first of all, don't look at one P&L and say, oh my gosh, my business is failing. That's just not accurate. But I think the first thing I would do is the conversation. Who is it? You have a conversation, just to be vulnerable and say, I want to understand this more, and I need to know if you're a good person to help me with that. And if you're not, that's okay, but I got to find somebody that is. Because you understanding and not being able to give a cash based analysis or anything like that, but just understanding what some report says, right? Because you can get like a P&L from each quarter that year, or that quarter compared to last quarter, and kind of see where you're growing or where there's problems. It's understanding little things like that. It has nothing to do with accounting terminology. It's just breaking it down to understand how your baby smells, how your baby looks, how your baby laughs. It's just like a child. It is baby, it's your business.
I love that. Okay, I lied. I have two more questions. Sorry, Monty. Because you
No.
just spawned something. We're talking about business owners, but what about the people in the audience that are entrepreneurs, right? They work for a company, maybe they're in college. Like, what advice do you have for them to get more intimate, more comfortable with understanding their own personal number, their own personal finances? Like, how much does it cost to live my life once a month? And what do I have left, kind of thing?
Absolutely. This is actually where I do 90% of my coaching is in personal finance.
Mm.
So yes, I have coaching that's part of every package of my business owners, but I do personal finance coaching. And it's a couple things. Go back. I want you to go back, and I want you to think about the first thing you can remember about money and write it down. And then I want you to write about what that made you feel, how it made you feel, because understanding how you think about money is critical in everything you do in money. Okay. And then it's asking yourself those values. What do I want? Like, I don't care about the bottom line right now. I want to know why you believe what you believe, and what do you want? Because again, money is emotional. And if we believe that it's not, you will never have any understanding of it. You have to understand why you believe or think about money the way you do. There's people that actually believe that people that have more than $100,000 a year, $300,000 a year are bad people because they were taught that as a child, right? So we have to understand why we believe what we believe about money. And then two, it's collect your evidence. There is nothing more mind-blowing to my clients when they collect their evidence and they say, I spent what on eating out?
Yeah.
I actually have a client who I worked with who did just that. I thought she was involved. And 1 year later, she called me and said, I paid off my car because she was clear on where the money was going. It's a zero baseline budget is what I believe. Every dollar has a purpose. You need to give your money a job. And when you do that, you know exactly where your money's going, and it's exactly where you want it to be going.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now this is my last question, I promise. You have so many great resources on your website. And for those that are watching, it's rolling on the ticker. It's crfinancialfoundations.com. Or if you're listening, just head to the website. But you have so many resources on the website. If someone's going to be sifting through and you have the resources and the courses, but if they're going to be sifting through, what's one of those resources that they shouldn't miss? And we'll put the resources in our show notes too, but like, what's one that they just absolutely shouldn't miss?
I think that there's a freebie right on that first page about understanding your money story. I think that's really it. I'm going to go back to the same thing over and over again, because we can do all the black and white. We can look at the numbers. We can do all of that. But if we don't understand our money, then nothing will change.
Yeah. Is that like a link they can click? Is that a quiz? How does that show up for them if they go to?
It's a PDF.
Okay.
It's just a PDF. It goes through and asks them some questions, has them do some answers. It's obviously it's better when you have somebody asking you the questions, but it's a freebie. And for some people, that's where they need to start.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you.
Well,
How can we
do
support
thank
you and lift you
Yeah.
up? What can
Yes.
we do for you? You spent time with us. You've made us smarter, better, more courageous. How can we lift you up?
What's something you can do? We are actually, you know what? We kicked off a nonprofit this year. My husband and I produced a nonprofit that's called Fostering the Summit. And the dream is to create pivotal change in the foster care system in the way children age out. It's a big dream, but we know that everything is just one step at a time. Tour de Mont Blanc this summer, actually in 2 weeks,
Wow.
100 miles in 12 days to start earning money to build a home on our property that will house 5 to 8 children before they age out, so that they're not a part of the statistics, that we actually change those statistics. So fosteringthesummit.org is along the so simple, easy to read website. Go there. It gives you a little bit of right now. It is just about awareness. There is a problem to have.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay. So fosteringthesummit.org, you're doing the walk, you're doing the summit, and that's hopefully you're going to build a unit on your property. So it's pretty impactful. That's pretty clear.
Pretty big.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Big. Well, we appreciate you spending time and educating us on all the things. And I personally can't wait to put some of what I've learned into practice. So we just want to say thank you and give you another round of applause and put you back in the green room.
Thank you so much, you
Here
guys.
we go. You're welcome.
Thanks for being here, Corree. You're the best.
Okay, Mandy, another great episode. What and who do we have to look forward to next week?
We have April Diaz next week, Monty.
April's coming to us from Southern California. She will be a joy and a firecracker to talk to. So
Love a firecracker.
You heard it here first. Yes, that's why we'll see what the combustion is like.
Woo!
So that will be fantastic. Make sure if you're watching that you rate, review, subscribe on the platform that you're watching or listening on. Please write a review, share it with a friend. And with that, we will see everyone next week, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 o'clock on the West. Thanks again to our guest, Corree, for joining us. And we will see you all